Start with Lori right here, and then we'll move over to Chelsea next.
Hi, thank you all for preparing. Thank you all for the time. So this one goes to Rob. This is on business gifting. I'm right over here. Yep. And I'm even standing up. Who knew? So, this is a two-part question.
Okay.
When it goes to the build-a-sets in the sets,
Yeah.
what are you finding on average they're spending per year to get to? We're going to use the homemaker as an example, and then additionally. Next question to that, well, one, do you have a structure that you kind of follow in terms of recommendations, year 1, 2, 3, boom, boom?
Mm-hmm.
And then how many of those are you finding will do personal engraving for the employee on one of those items somewhere per the year? Or are you finding that they just typically just, stick with logo?
Yep, great questions. So I would say, it's kind of weird hearing myself there, it's not the total budget that they're going to spend, it's per employee, right? So what I found is, less employees, typically they'll have a bigger budget. So a lot of the ones I deal with and I deal with a lot of 5 employee, 10 employee companies. But again, if they have a $1,000 budget, that's where I'll just sell 10 homemakers or 10 signatures, 10 ultimates, right? Depending on what they're looking to do. So again, you just need to hone in on what the budget is per employee, and then you just stick to that every year, right? And then you can tailor the pieces on the back, right? And there's other things you can sell too, but these are the main, all the ultimate pieces that are here, and I usually stick to that because again, when you're building it as well, if you're getting a homemaker blocks, all these pieces, the wider pieces won't fit in there. So that's what you're the expert of kind of suggesting and saying what it looks like. So if their budget's 100 to 150, it may be a knife, every single year, especially when, some of our knives will be like $400 a piece. But that's not, they don't care about the cost. They just care, hey, are you sticking within, and they can fluctuate $10, $15, $20. But if you're sticking within that or under that, they appreciate that, right? As far as the second part of the question, as far as engraving, I've gone away from engraving every single piece every year, right? Because I want them to get more pieces and more value out of the pieces instead of the cost of engraving. Typically, that's why you can see a brass plate, right? And it can say made especially for the Bailey family or for the wife's name, like Julie's Kitchen. So it can be a lot of different phrases on there, and that can be brass or silver. But that's what I tell them is, hey, that's the distinguishing piece, is you're not just plastering your logo and just promoting you, you're really doing it and tailoring to your employee, and they appreciate that a lot more. Some of the sets I've seen out there where it has every single piece with their logo on there, it's not the way that it should be. And again, what's nice when building it, there might be a key piece that they put their wife's name on there, or like the scissors I like to do typically, like that first year. I'll put her name on the scissors, and then that goes a long way. But the end goal is, we'll get that plate, typically the second last year, we'll put it on there. The set will be 3/4 filled, and then we'll finish it out the last year. Keep in mind, too, some of the anniversary years, know how long they've been in business, because those years I sell a lot more. So their budget may be 100, 150 per employee, but they may give out to the top clients that year, or they may give something extra above and beyond the pieces to build a set. So a lot of times, which we'll see here on the new volumes pricing, there's some new things. I won't talk about stuff like that because I'm sure Steve will I'll let you guys know later. But the point is that they could do a build-a-set, but then they can also add on a garden tool set for each of the employees, or a barbecue set, or entertainer pack, or anything like that above and beyond on some of those bigger years or something they want to do special. And that second to last year, typically to finish it out if we're really close, they'll raise the budget. And I've had ultimate set build-a-set people were like last year, like, okay, let's just finish it out, and their budget doubled and tripled just because they're like, okay, cool, I just want them to have the completed set. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, and those plaques on those blocks, are they adhesive at the factory? Is that an option? Can we do that as an option?
Yes, there's an adhesive tape.
There's adhesive tape on the plates, but they won't put it on there at the factory. Yeah, they put it on themselves. I actually personally put it on myself. I do a lot of hand deliveries. which again is kind of part of another program and a lot more to talk about the business program. But I like to do hand deliveries, so I actually put the plates on for them. I either gift wrap or the new deluxe boxes, just put a bow on there. Goes a long way now. And when I deliver it, there's a lot of things I do when I deliver it outside of them seeing everything. Everything's perfect because I, took ownership of it, but I get a lot of referrals from them as well. So when I did a lot of hand deliveries this fall, I got another 40 to 50 business referrals. They're all hot, right? Because now that bandwagon effect, I talk about, hey, another, your buddy, your brother, sister, family member, whoever it may be, they do gifting with me. Can I talk to you about what they're doing? Whether they did it or not in the past, this other new lead, and then like, oh, cool, tell me about it. And then, then it's just the sales will just continue to skyrocket from there. But that's why I do a lot of hand deliveries. So.
Now, Rob, real quick, just follow up on this topic. Is your engraving approach the same whenever you're doing these build-a-sets for clients and not just for employees?
Yeah, from a build-a-set. So like if it's just a one-off type thing, then typically we'll do engraving on the pieces and then hand those out. But everything I do, I try to think long-term and try to create a strategy wrapped around that. So, but like I said, it could just be one piece in the set, but I don't put, a logo or names on every single piece unless they request it and they want to pay the extra for it. Or if they're doing like a full complete set, sometimes they might want, the wife's name on every piece, which is fine. But again, that strategy is, the plate does the whole thing. They see that every day,
Then Chelsea was next.
Oh, I do? Okay. Oh, okay, yeah. My question's also for Rob. So I'm just curious, what would it look like if we created a drip campaign email system for business gifting build-a-set clients? So my thought process is, as you said, that you go back, it's already set up. They know you're going to come back like that same month every year.
Yeah.
And they're building the set for their clients, their employees. What if there was something to intercept that and to fluff them up and keep them happy along the way? Not a monthly email or anything crazy. These are busy people, but something that was either a quarterly or bi-monthly. We have drip campaigns that go 36 months in my realtor business, and you have no idea how many reorders that gets you. Have you created something like that, or do you want to? Would it fit this program?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to have that contact with them. I do it just old school. Most of mine's face-to-face. And it's because of the nature of the people I'm working with as well. They don't have emails, so that doesn't work too well. But for me, I love being face-to-face anyways. And so throughout the year, I'll be having touch points before our actual meeting, or I'll see them at a show. And, when we'll talk about any business, just again, continue to build the rapport. But that can certainly be a great idea and work really well, just to, again, have those touch points. Or if something comes up and they need before that yearly meeting, I think what you're talking about, they can reorder for customers or something like that. But yeah, I pitch it as, again, customer or employee because, again, a lot of their clients are, just like as long as their employees around year after year after year. So, but yeah, having multiple touch points. I don't know if you guys know, but I'll be the second rep in the company history to do a factory tour. So that's my way of having another touch point, which I'm not selling at all. I'm just giving them an experience and taking care of them. That's why the close is once you say, hey, I'm gonna take care of your wife, they're like, oh my gosh, okay, like that's a no-brainer, let's go ahead and do this. And then, again, most of them are, 99% of them are looking forward to seeing me again. So, I just stop in, they're like, okay, cool, let's talk about this and another order, this year. But great point, appreciate it, bringing it up.
All right, who else has a question? It's gonna pop, we still got like 15 minutes, guys.
All right. I guess this question could be answered by Rob, Josh, or Amy, but you had mentioned in the beginning sending out an email to your current residential clients, trying to maybe fish for some leads. Is there a template already made that we can use to do that, geared towards business gifts? And then is that something you would recommend to maybe get things flowing along with asking people while you're working a show, like, hey, do you own or run a business? What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great way to get started if you have no business connections right now, or maybe you're not aware of your business connections. But Steve put a great package together for the introductory business, which again, they're out there on Vendor Row. If you don't have one, you need to at least get that. That's bare bone minimum standards, but in there answers your question where there's actually verbiage of what you can say out to your residential customers. I'm sure other people have other things they say as well, but that's a great starting point. And that's kind of what I just initially used as well, a couple years ago, something similar to that. So.
I would say that if you're asking, like, could Vast Action create a template and provide that for you, that is maybe a ask for referrals template or a ask if you're a business owner and interested in talking more about this template, I would say that, yeah, we could easily say yes to both of those. So give us some time. We'll work on it. We'll talk with some people who are, more experienced in this, and we'll find out what might that actually look like and what might actually get responses, and then we'll put it together and put it out to you guys. So, Amy, yeah? All right, cool.
So you're telling me Vast Action can create like an email template?
Yeah.
And then you just like put it on my CRM?
It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Yeah. For a nominal fee.
Okay, Matt, if we can get James.
Real quick, this is directed more towards John, Brandon, and Jason, two of you which have been mentors of mine. Thank you. Where do you see the mentoring program going in the future? Because some of us maybe have never been and maybe want to be. In lieu of the structure, I know it's been talked about in the past as to newer reps maybe being mentored by certain people and then so on and so forth. But where do you guys see the mentoring program futuristically?
I think it's really something that should be ingrained in our culture from the beginning with students, getting mentored by those who've won scholarships. I know Matt Foss has created a really powerful program, and he's continuing to work on it, to cultivate it, to make it better with systems of accountability and stuff like that. But just like from the student to the CSP to the professional to just the personal development overall, and making sure that they're getting the value along the whole way through the journey towards getting to be Hall of Fame or whatever, as quickly as possible, instead of taking 10 years, doing it in 3 or 4 or whatever it could be. But the future of the program, just helping more people on a more massive scale would be the ultimate goal, right? And whatever the universe provides for that, because it's really constantly developing right now in a really powerful way already.
Yeah, I'll just share. I think that didn't help. The mentoring program, as far as the future of it, really is an opportunity to cultivate your own personal growth at a deeper and more effective level. As you guys know, like, these net meetings are super powerful, but the probability of more than 90% of you, 90% of you actually reviewing your notes and implementing like the steps and all the nuggets that come from it is where there's a disconnect. And so when you have someone in or out of the business that you can receive growth and leadership from, that's where your growth can be, magnified and expanded at a higher level. And I think there's a power in being able to receive mentorship from somebody, regardless, or coaching, regardless of where it's sourced from. And then also being able to give, mentorship to someone else. And the idea of receiving and giving is a really powerful dynamic because it allows you to learn and be accountable for your learning and be in integrity with what you're learning, and then also be able to implement that to someone who's below you or that's learning to get to the level that you're at. So it's really important to have both and not just one.
Cool. Yeah, I got 2 things on this. So one is, one of the beautiful things, you can kind of do quick math, right? It's like when someone makes 50% and they sell whatever, you're like, oh, wow, you made blank dollars, right? You hear like, oh, wow, Brandon influenced 4 point something million. It's like, oh shit, Brandon made some serious money there. But I would also say Brandon significantly invests a lot of that back into his own growth. So, and I think that can actually halt a lot of people in their decision of mentoring or getting coaching. But I think when you have the perspective of you also mentor and coach people, I think that it should always almost be covered by the benefit you give back to others. And that for me has allowed me the process of continuously investing significantly every year in my own growth, because I'm also mentoring other people, and so I'm like kind of receiving it and also giving it, and so it's very cyclical there, right? The second part of that is I think it's really good to be known for something in the mentoring or coaching space, right? So like people who are going to mentor with Brandon are going to be wanting something slightly different than what they would want from me. I am commonly known with people who ask for coaching or mentoring because they want to become a hybrid rep. They want to start doing realtor and business gift. They might already be mentoring with someone else, but they mentor specifically with me just on CGC, and that's what they want. So I think part of it is knowing, is somewhat niching who you are as like what people can count on getting from you as a mentor or coach, because then it's almost like when you're at an event like this and you're like, oh yeah, I'm trying to get better at blank, it's easier for people to say, oh, you should talk to so-and-so, that's what they're really good at, and I know they've got their own program that they do with that. So I think that's as far as like for a lot of you guys to know, as far as you develop yourself to be known for something, as like how you support others. Yes,
Hey guys, this is for anyone who wants to answer. I'm just curious, what's your best practice for personal development on a consistent basis? And what's your best practice for just implementing a needle mover for your business?
I'll answer that real quick because I got the mic. So two things. I'm pretty rigid with doing a miracle morning every single day. For me, I'm all about state management, and all of my training and learning has shown if you want to be effective at the booth, it's like what do I need to do to be the most effective and present in the moment with who's in front of me right now? And that philosophy has allowed me to be really intentional about what do I do every day to get back in that state. So number one is state management with daily routine is a big part. And the other thing is I've read the book The One Thing like 4 times, and it because it's proven successful with having a one thing focus every year of like, if this is what I focus on this year, it will make the hugest difference in my business. And some people really discount the value of making that literally new customer approach. Like they discount like, oh, well, I need to learn all these other things. Yes, and if you master that one thing, how will that exponentially grow? Because once you've got that down, like you're like laser sharp on it, then next year or the 6 months later, that next one thing. So that's kind of been my process, is daily routine and one thing focus.
Yeah, Adam, what I would say is as far as implementing like personal growth, probably for me, the biggest thing has been creating space to actually grow. It's easy to get wrapped up into the business or even on the business that you're creating and not actually carving out time to grow yourself and give yourself the time and space to identify what it is that you need to work on, what are your blind spots, what are your masks, which that's a whole separate conversation, but just things to work on in your own life, business or professionally, and changing up the environment, right? Being someone that lives in LA, like I'm in, a concrete jungle. So for me, it's very important to be immersed into nature, just to allow me to tap into like the creativity side. And so regardless of where you live, whether you're like farm country or in the city, like giving yourself space and changing up the environment. Those that follow me on social media see that I'll like do different trips, but the trips are very intentional to change where I currently live so that I can then have the space to not have the same conditions that I'm surrounded with 24/7, and then be able to like tap into a different part of that, part of like what I need to work on. So that, and then really carving out the time to reflect and to journal and to meditate. I know Jason's big on meditating too. It's like having the time to do that might not seem important in the moment, but it's absolutely critical to your success. And like sometimes making the choice to make sacrifices of CPO for personal growth. Some of you who like know me on a deeper level, like I've given up 5 days at a state fair, $20,000, $30,000 in income, and then spend $5,000, $10,000 for an event, like a big exchange of cash flow. But making choices like that shows you what you're orienting towards and what's more important. And there's a lot of things more important than CPO.
Yeah, for the personal development or personal growth, I would say implement it in regards to like daily, weekly, and monthly. And putting it into your schedule is probably the most critical thing. So for me, I listen to audios during my morning triathlon. So it gives me like, a couple hours of personal development through audio. And then also on the daily, and I don't do that every day, it's just like 3 or 4 days a week. And then in the evening time, I'll do 10 minutes of reading minimum. And then, there's stuff for weekly. And then like monthly, I'll have like a personal growth day where I'll take the entire day and just read, Socrates or Emerson or whatever floats my boat for the day that I want to connect with. It could be on like health. It could be whatever I'm trying to learn. I'll take a whole day for that every single month. And then another day just for skill set learning versus personal development. It's like all Cutco related, memorizing scripts, listening to audios, going back and like make sure I'm perfecting my own stuff, that I'm working on or everything else I'm learning from everybody else and such. So it's like those 2 days, and then you've got the daily working out that as well. And then your second question was about how to push or implement a needle moving thing that you've learned. Is that correct? Like, for example, what? I don't know, we probably don't have a lot of time for this, but what would be an example? What are you trying to implement, needle moving thing?
It could be just up-serving every customer every time, like focus.
Right, so in that case, you need to have a reminder maybe in your phone for when you're working a show that day. Like look at your schedule and put in a reminder for the next 7 days you're at a shift to implement up-serving. And then you can also have it go off 3 times during the day. You can put something on your clipboard where your order form is so that when you pull out the order form and you're going to hand it to the customer, like, oh, yeah, and then you take that off the clipboard, set it on the table. I need to up-serve, and then you go into that while they're filling the order form out, something like that. Just try to figure out like how to hold yourself accountable to implementing the thing through some sort of system, if that makes sense.
Let's all just make it a point to, squeeze in those audios during that morning triathlon that we all do.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to say a few quick things. One is something that John made me think of that I've mentioned before, but if there is one thing, we'll call it a keystone, right? One thing you can do that will up-level multiple things, then that's a really good thing to start with, right? So, and that can be business related. So like he said, working with new clients, that can be helpful in person, at the booth, on appointments, at a service event, whatever. So that one thing can up-level all areas of your business if you're doing it really well, right? Just like if you have a habit of better energy or better attention or something in your life and you're working on that can up-level multiple things in your life at one time. So it's good to maybe find the thing that could serve multiple areas. That's one thing. For me, I love getting multiple sources. So like, it's really motivating to me to listen to like a neuroscientist or listen to a psychologist or listen to a business owner or listen to a CEO or whatever. And just because it's really fun to find what they say and go, how does that relate to what I can do, even though it's neuroscience or whatever. And I don't know what it is about that kind of stuff, but hearing something that's totally from a different industry and being like, ooh, I can implement that here. That's a really good thing here. Just really fires me up. So now I'm getting learning and motivation out of it. I've just always been that way with quality information. I don't know why. So I say, if you can listen to different sources too versus just maybe business, right? Just business. That's really good as well. And then Tim Ferriss is great for that, he says. And then the only other thing I would say about implementing is with the whole research on habits, if you've never heard of stacking, anytime you're trying to do something new, it helps if you have something you're already doing every time, whether that's working with a customer, something you do daily. If you are trying to implement something new, if you can stack it with that, because then you're less likely to forget to do it because it's with the thing you're already doing. So like he said, it was similar to if there's something you're always saying to a customer when they are deciding to place an order and you're talking about upserving and you want to remember to go into the trying to upserve, stack those right on top of each other. The new thing you're going to say right on top of the thing you always say. And that way it learns to flow versus trying to remember. The little cues also, of course, help, which is a great tip. But stacking is a really good thing for new habits and that kind of stuff too, of things you're already doing. Hope that makes sense.
I was just gonna say one quick thing about identifying the needle mover, Adam, is also, and just to piggyback off what Jason said, have a metric. Track the metric of the needle mover. So if it's upserving, it's like track what your average CPO is just on upserving. And not just what your average CPO is just on upserving, but the percentage in which of customers that you are upserving. That's a great way to identify where you're at and also what you want to get to.
Okay, so can we just give it up for that talk these guys just gave? Because that was awesome. I mean, that was right there. So I want to just speak to the reflection point that Brandon made and kind of unpack that a little bit. I second everything these guys say and practice many of these things on a daily basis, having the routines, all those sorts of things. But like Jason said, have a routine in place or a plan in place and block time for growth, daily, weekly, monthly. I teach and practice myself, also doing that with reflection. So we call them progress checkpoints. Add them there in Pillar 3 on the online classroom, right? We can get you there and have you dive in on that. But, just looking and saying, like, having time blocked off in your calendar to take a step back and look backwards. And use what you see when you look backwards as an opportunity to define and increase clarity on what you can do moving forward to move the needle, right? So, and it's just basically coming up with a series of reflection questions that you're gonna ask yourself consistently about whatever it is you wanna look at. So if you're implementing a new skill set, for example, you may say, okay, I'm working on building my average order with Cutco owners, and specifically towards the ultimate upgrade, the one thing approach, right? What's the one thing that by implementing is gonna make the biggest difference and make everything else, easier or unnecessary? So you define that as, the ultimate upgrade. So I'm gonna work on that. So then, you work on it for a month, and then at the end of the month, you look back and you go, okay, what were my metrics in that area? What did I do well? What could I have done better? And what am I going to do? How do I take that information and place it into the future in a way that I can hold myself accountable to the next level? And then what you do is over the course of days and weeks and months, you're stacking that information in a way that by the end of the year, you're like, holy crap, the progress that I made, the snowball effect that I created over the course of the year is pretty amazing, and it's made a significant difference in my overall results. Now, how do I maintain that moving forward? But if we never give ourselves the gift of that space to actually step back and look backwards, to learn from what's already working for us or what we're already doing, it's really hard it can be really confusing, it can be a little bit overwhelming, we can feel like we don't really know where to focus. And the easiest way to determine your focus is to look backwards, right? And then ask, what am I doing well? Where are my opportunities for growth? And those big needle movers, get those defined and then make a plan and make space in your calendar to not only implement and practice, but also to look back and reflect. So both those things need space.
Thank you guys very much. Let's give these guys one more round of applause.